Hi, this is Stephen Cohen of the Berman Jewish Policy Archive at NYU Wagner with another segment in Cohen's Comments. Today we have a guest, Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, noted theologian, scholar, leader of American Jewry, and we just completed a salon with Shema magazine talking about a number of issues. One thing he said to me that I found, he said to all of us, I found very, very compelling, was the notion that we ought to create a new rite de passage for American Jewry, and that is that everybody, every Jew should give a year, maybe 2 years of service to Jewish people. So I was interested in having you expand upon that. It was a great idea for the conference. I'd like to hear, what was the thinking? Why a year of service? What's the rationale behind it? What do you think it would do if that actually became a standard norm for American Jewry and widely practiced?
I thought it comes from two considerations particularly. First of all, classic Jewish tradition, the highest form of service, the highest form of recognition of the image of God is, in fact, serving a fellow human being. And it's the most precious because it's not just money, it's giving of yourself, your life, which is the most precious thing you have. That's one truth. The other truth is that the community, I think one of the greatest weaknesses we're seeing in American Jewish life now is that living in an open society with enormous acceptance, that Jewishness does not stand out. The question is, why would people choose or want to be Jewish? And I think at least part of the problem is that there is no demand, there's no higher standard, there's no expectation that is truly sacrificial. And in the end, so if it's just a good time, I can have a good time anywhere, and in a way, particularly liberal movements are struggling that openness and acceptance is being confused with the notion of ease, and no one ever makes a demand upon it. My suggestion thought was the community should set as a goal, really, to set up a norm, insisting that this is as fundamental a norm as worshiping God or as eating kosher or whatever your particular communal demand is, that every Jew has to give of themselves a real significant gift, like I think a year or two. I use the Mormon example where they, for that year or two, it is a commitment to service. It could be expressed in service in the Jewish community, but as far as I'm concerned, it could be expressed in service to the poor or third world or other or urban teaching, but that we would build in a dimension of Jewish learning and Jewish education. A profound steeping and development of understanding that what you're doing, including the value of service and human dignity, learning and experiencing the Jewish connection, the Jewish family dimension of it, the Jewish text and our source. Now, I think what would come out of this would be two things. One is that being Jewish, therefore, has not only a cost, but an extra quality, a fulfillment, a human inspiration that makes it worth choosing to be Jewish, and makes it something serious and not to be taken for granted. And it's a seriousness not based on narrowness or obscurantism or condemnation of others, but it's a deep experience that comes out of love and kindness, which is in fact fundamental.
I just find this very interesting because I would say a prevailing, if not the prevailing theory of why Jews aren't more Jewishly involved is that somehow we exclude them, and we need to invite them in and include them and be non-judgmental and emphasize diversity, inclusivity, values which I share and I'm sure you do as well. But this approach of yours, which by the way I strongly support, says no, there's another missing ingredient to bringing Jews into Jewish life.
If I can use a commercial image. Again, when you have a globalization and a completely open market, the question becomes how do you sell your product? So again, you have the mass product, which sells because it's cheaper or because it's instantly available, and Walmart makes a great success of it. But the truth is most of the other brands, if they succeed at all, they succeed the other way. It's unique, it's expensive, but it's worth it because it's the most wonderful food. It's just a flavor and a taste you'll never have any other way. I think that particularly a small community has to establish, if you will, a brand that is more difficult, more challenging, and no less inclusive, but it's worth it. You get it back many-fold. So I don't see this purely as a commercial strategy. I come back to the basic truth. I believe, particularly in the time of God's hiddenness, theological secularity, which I believe we're living in, the single most powerful encounter with God is to meet the image of God, the human being in the image of God, and to serve and connect to that. And that, the Bible always insisted, brings the third partner, God, into the equation in that very act. So I see this as a fulfillment of the deepest Jewish values, but our contribution, because it was not a mark, it was not a expectation, but here's what our contribution to the covenant, to add a dimension of demand and of expectation that's truly inclusive, because any Jew can meet that standard, or I'm not sure how many will, but I think if we make it, if we work at it, at the least we'll have established a higher quality and deeper respect for the niche itself, of Jewishness, and if we succeed, it's a major contribution both to Jewish life and to the health of human beings, Jews and non-Jews.
I remind you of my one comment on this wind up is that it teaches that two sociologists said that both of them happen not to be Jewish. Peter Berger, who said that when religion went into the modern world, all of a sudden we have to start thinking about marketing religion, using commercial language, which I saw you do effortlessly, moving back and forth. He said even the most pious and committed people have to, in effect, adopt a position of marketing their religion, which used to be totally self-evident and axiomatic. It's very interesting listening to your comments. And the other thing that I reminded of is the work of Lawrence Yannicone, who is a Chicago school economist who works on a huge amount of work on religion. And he said that we make a mistake if we lower barriers too much. If we raise barriers too high, we get a sect. Very few people can join. In today, those people can join. If we lower barriers, then in fact we're telling people that belonging to this church, belonging to this religion, is worthless. There's no cost of coming in, and therefore there's no cost of coming out, and there's no reason, there's no value to join. And so what you're doing is you're reminding us of the lesson that I learned as a Wagner student.
What's his name?
Lawrence Yannicone. Lawrence Yannicone is born a Seventh-day Adventist, became a Presbyterian. He is now a sociologist of religion. I believe at UC San Diego, but we'll check that. But he's really he's done an enormous amount of work about an economic perspective on religion. So what you're saying about it, which you know intuitively and from years and years of experience of thinking about this, he also discovered as an academician, also as a committed Christian as well. So on that note, I wish all of us farewell. This is Stephen Cohen for Berman Jewish Policy Archive at NYU Wagner, www.bjpa.org. Thank you. And thank you, Yitz Greenberg.